Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Polish American Historical Association's webinar in our continuing series. Today, we have Exploring Cultural Identity via Family Photos with Kristina Kwacz, as you all know. I don't know if and once again, ask you to mute your mics unless you have are chiming in on something. But I don't know if there's anybody here who hasn't, spent time staring at your own family photos and wanting more, wanting to know more, to understand more, and trying to imagine the stories behind those photos and wondering about and really wondering at kind of the webs that connect us across time and uh, connect us to those people and their world, and those webs that bind us and have made us who we are as individuals, as families, as a culture, and as a nation. I know because I've heard Kristina present before that you'll all find inspiration in her exploration of these intergenerational stories and that bind us and that form us. So I bet a lot of you, after this webinar is over, that a lot of you will dig out your family albums and start thinking about your own histories and where you fit into this continuing family saga. I want to thank the my colleagues at the Polish American Historical Association for organizing these webinars, these opportunities for us to come together across time and space, much like the photos we'll be looking at today. Um, there are a lot of organizations that study Polish history and Polish culture, but the Polish American Historical Association is the only one that focuses on the study of the diaspora, the Polish worldwide diaspora. So if you're not a member yet, I hope you'll check out our website, polishamericanstudies.org, and see the important work that we've done for over 75 years now. There'll also be an opportunity to donate to our different projects through the QR code that you should see in the chat right now. Um, I hope you'll also join us in person in January at our annual conference in Chicago. Dress warm since we're discussing weather. Seriously, a 3-day conference in Chicago in the historical heart of Polonia is not nearly enough time. But we always look forward to that Chicago conference. So now I'm going to turn things over to Ivona Fleece, and she'll be introducing our speaker today.
Hello, it's so nice to be with all of you today. I will speak shortly about Kristina. Kristina Kwacz is an independent scholar whose areas of interest include Polish and Eastern European studies, the Polish diaspora in the United States, and memory work with family photos. An ongoing project combining images and narrative explores her identity and the child of immigrants profoundly impacted by war and totalitarianism. And professionally, Kristina manages the Albany office of the New York State Senate's deputy leader. Kristina is also our member. So, Krisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you, PAHA, for the opportunity to present today, and to friends and members and visitors who are making the time to participate in this morning's program. Also, really just a special shout out to Anya Mueller, who said, "Hey, you ought to do a webinar for PAHA." And I said, "Sure." You just gave me the leeway, PAHA, to do what felt appropriate. So I hope you find this interesting and enjoyable. And I would say today my presentation will have basically 3 parts. First, I'm going to reference the work of some scholars of family photography. They're cultural theorists, historians, sociologists, who have really, in my research, inspired me and support and drive my interest in this field of work with family photos. I will provide an overview of how I approach my work with photos, and then I'll go through a couple of examples, and then we'll open up the floor for Q&A. So that's the program. And just to note, when there's a long quote, I will bookend it, but other quotations, I will just reference the author, the source, so we don't do quote unquote 82 times in the presentation. Okay, so I am now going to do my best to screen share. Stephen, if you could mute, I see you are not muted. Let's see, let's get the technology going. Okay. Share. Okay, here we go. Share PowerPoint slide. Okay. Share. Screen sharing. Okay, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yes.
And then then we'll make sure I can advance. Okay, that means I need my little arrow. Okay. As my mother, Kasia, rested in a hospice room at our local hospital, I assembled a gallery of family photographs in an alcove in front of her bed. My goal was to create a sense of home and familiarity, allowing memories of loved ones to provide comfort as she lay in the institutional environment. Hospital staff often took note of the photographs, commenting on images of my mother as a teenager in rural Poland embracing her best friend, a 1940s studio portrait taken in Manhattan that highlighted her crystal blue eyes, or an iconic family portrait where an infant Kasia sits upon her mother's knee, mouth forming an O, while her father and two older siblings stand beside them. Prior to this era of digital photos and social media, family photographs like these were common in Western cultures. Some might be clustered in a display of framed images, while others, pasted in albums, chronicled the people, places, and experiences of a lifetime. They are what my family and others sent to relatives in their homeland of Poland, sometimes receiving an image or two in return. Marita Sturken writes, quote, "The personal photograph is an object of complex emotional and cultural meaning, an artifact used to conjure memory, nostalgia, and contemplation. It evokes both memory and loss, both the trace of life and the prospect of death. Yet while the photograph may be perceived as a container for memory, it is not inhabited by memory so much as it produces it. It is a mechanism through which the past can be constructed and situated within the present," unquote. Since the latter part of the 20th century, a number of scholars and theorists have taken a critical look at family photographs. They create terminology, identify themes, and develop tools to interpret photos in personal collections and public archives. They also consider the history of photography's impact on the medium itself as they seek to uncover the messages and sometimes secrets that are contained within these photos. By taking note of their approaches, one may give voice to the messages contained therein. Uncovering family dynamics in this way may lead to a greater understanding of self, ultimately expanding one's awareness of cultural identity. Marion Hirsch is among the scholars who contend that the development of photography, its history, and technology had a direct impact on family photography. During the early 20th century, many photographs in family collections were formal portraits taken in professional studios. In 1888, this situation changed dramatically as scholars point toward George Eastman and his introduction of the Kodak camera as the watershed event that made photography available to the masses. Hirsch notes that with this device, photography quickly became the family's primary instrument of self-knowledge and representation, the means by which family memory would be continued and perpetuated. The point and press technology, notes Don Slater, quickly became an inexpensive and reliable tool for the amateur photographer. Further, Kodak marketing targeted women and young families with children, promising that, quote, simply and reliably, the snapshot camera would reproduce the right family, unquote. As the camera emerged as a consumer good, the number of photographs grew rapidly, with children often their main subject. During this period of rapid proliferation, scholars consider who is present in the images and who is not. They observe that most often the father acts as the photographer. Patricia Holland explains, the father is least visible, for it remains his role to handle the apparatus that controls the image, to point, frame, and shoot. If men took the photos, women assumed responsibility for sorting the images and preparing the family album. Holland considers the late 20th century women who engaged in this task as historians, as well as guardians of memory, as they select and preserve the family archive. These curatorial efforts yielded the product which would portray their family to others in their social network. Catherine Zoromsky suggests there is an inherent responsibility associated with this task, as women must ensure a positive portrayal of the family. Yet, often these photographs do not portray real emotions or affinities, as forced smiles and awkward embraces belie hidden truths. She writes, in striving to capture an image of domestic bliss or ideal social relations, the snapshot may not document reality so much as a performance. Hirsch also considers the familial mythology, noting, photographs can easily show us what we wish our family to be, and therefore what most frequently it is not. Gillian Rose theorizes family photography as a practice, asserting that what the images show and what is done with them both define family photos. She writes, quote, family photos are particular sorts of images embedded in specific practices, and it is the specificity of those practices that define a photograph as a family photo as much, if not more than, what it pictures. What is important in a family photograph is who took it, who it shows, where and how it is kept, who made copies of it and sent them to other people, who those other people are, and how it gets looked at by all those people, unquote. Zoromskis concurs, asserting the snapshot ultimately depends upon practices of production and circulation to endow it with meaning and cultural value. A desire to reveal and understand the secrets that may exist in a family drives Annette Kuhn's memory work. She suggests that all families have secrets in varying degrees, some kept from the outside community and others kept from each other. As we look at family photographs, Kuhn argues that memory work may help in coming to terms with the feelings of the present, and so in living more fully in the present. She underscores the value of the process, writing that family photographs may affect to show us our past, but what we do with them, how we use them, is really about today, not yesterday. Kuhn explores this process as she interprets a photograph of herself at age 7 wearing a ceremonial outfit to celebrate Queen Elizabeth's coronation day. Her mother has put great effort into making a fancy dress as well as styling her daughter's hair. The photograph, taken by her father, intends to capture a happy and appreciative child. Yet Kuhn dislikes the dress's colors and finds it tight and uncomfortable. She writes, I did not ask for, nor do I want these clothes. Reading the photograph as an adult, she recognizes it is layered with meaning, guilt, disappointment, and disapproval. Meant to convey a message of the good mother lovingly dressing her daughter, Kuhn adds, my mother's gift to me was, I believe, directed more at the neglected little girl that she herself had been than to a daughter whom she might have regarded as a person in her own right. Like Kuhn, writer and photographer Jo Spence employs family photographs to mine the psyche. She suggests that we open the family album and look beyond how it may appear similar to other albums of its time, capturing holiday dinners, children's birthdays, and so on. For most albums say more about the photographic and social conventions than they do about the mixture of fantasy, in fact, of our own particularities. She's an advocate for phototherapy work, describing how photographs used as tools to trigger memories can stimulate, emotional healing. She writes, by using photographs as the starting point, we are able to talk about the images rather than the people, thus gently proceeding step by step into the minefield of memory. The methodology of memory work is an integral part of my scholarly inquiry as I explore my identity as a Polish American. Core questions trigger memories, and then reflecting upon them inspires narrative. With hundreds of photos from which to choose, where and how does one begin? So for me, significant dates often provide inspiration, especially the anniversaries of births and deaths. Sometimes I can recall a specific image and then the search to locate it begins. Will I find it in an album, a box, a drawer, or maybe not at all? Roland Barthes' terms studium and punctum guide the selection process. If studium is a spectator's general interest in or attraction to a photograph, punctum is the element that catches the eye. It is intriguing or perhaps poignant. It may be a small detail in the photograph that's always there, but not always triggered, as it's what the viewer adds to the photograph. Barthes describes the punctum as pricking him. For me, it's akin to a spark. Using a variety of tools, then, one may analyze how family photographs reveal intimate family dynamics, as well as the effects of external influences. Having selected a photograph, the process of analysis begins. Hirsch encourages the assessment of the looks that circulate in a family photograph. Quote, the look between photographer and subjects, between the subjects themselves, between those who commissioned the images and the people portrayed, and between the interested reader and the object of her reading, unquote. Kuhn suggests questions based on the protocols of Rosie Martin and Joe Spence to further the examination. She considers who took the photo, who was in it, where it was taken, why it was made. Reviewing details such as the position of the subjects within the frame, their proximity to others, facial expressions and posture, and of course the photograph's punctum, allows one to delve deeper into the story the photograph might yield. So what might this process look like? I have two examples. Both were selected for interpretation as I reflected upon the anniversary of my father's death, which was, he passed September 4, 1988. And every year I do some thinking and usually do a Facebook post. So here's the photo that I had selected. So going through the questions, who are the subjects? They are Walter Kwacz, who is approximately 56 years of age, with me, his daughter Krisha, age 6 at the time. What captured my attention for me, the punctum, is that kitten in between us. And the fact that we are in these kind of casual poses in non-casual dress. And even though it's blurry, I'm smiling. And that just makes me smile even now. Okay, the photograph was taken in the backyard of our home in rural upstate New York, perhaps during spring of 1967. And it had to be either before or after Mass if we are dressed. It looks like we're dressed for church. My mother, Kasia, took the photo with the Kodak Brownie camera she purchased after I was born. The photograph was made for our family and it was placed in a family photo album. And as Kasia and Walter's only child, the photo is in my collection of family photos. And this image inspired a very short reflection. And often when I'm writing, it's as if I'm speaking or writing a note or a letter to one of my parents. So, dear Tata, you gave me silver gray hair, a love of cats, rain barrels for watering gardens, selling things we've grown, managing a controlled burn, speaking Polish, driving, but most importantly, family. Your granddaughter, my niece. Your grandson, my nephew. You didn't know them, but I do. Najważniejsza jest rodzina. Family is most important. So for my final example, I'll read the narrative first, followed by an interpretation of the photo. And this I wrote on September 4, 2022. Dear Tata, 34 years ago, you left us, so tired and worn by a surgery that found you reaching for a leg that was no longer there. By fate or by providence, I was with you, recognizing the pivotal moment and understanding that a DNR meant this was indeed a final farewell. But him you left 3 decades prior, an ocean and waves of secrecy, keeping truth tucked away and at bay, until Mama's wisdom prevailed, so that before you died, you knew that I knew, and that I felt only love for you and for this gift of kin. And now he has left this mortal coil, estrangement and loss, tainting what might have been. I pray that in the next realm you have met and reconciled old hurts and disappointments, released regrets, welcomed peace. Today, as I remember your loss, I remember you both, father and son. So as I dive into this image, the punctum for me is that the main subject is not looking at the camera, but at the boy, which also draws the viewer's eye to the child. The human subjects are my tata, my father, Vladislav Kwacz, and his son, Stanisław. The photo was taken in Gdańsk, Poland during February 1957. How and by whom is unknown. Presumably, it was made for Tata since it was in his possession. The photo is now in my personal collection. This photograph exemplifies Kuhn's assertion of the secrets that family photographs might contain. How I learned our family secret, that I had a half-brother born in Poland during the post-war years, is another story. How my father ultimately learned that I knew is yet another. Kuhn writes, bringing the secrets and the shadows into the open allows the deeper meanings of the family drama's mythic aspects to be reflected upon, confronted, and understood at all levels. The memory work that I conduct with photos like these does just that, especially in light of the complex history and cultural heritage of Poles and Polish Americans. There is much to be gained by exploring this process, and so, kind listeners, I invite you to consider finding an image and mining the memories and stories that it contains. Thank you. I don't know who we can invite to do. I don't know. Well, Karen or someone to monitor, or should I just keep my eyes peeled for the hands raised?
No, we can do this. Donna, are you there to do this, or should I take care of it? Donna probably
And I
stepped
got to
out.
step away for one moment.
So
If you could, Anya, because I have a problem with my video.
okay, but I think so. So I think we have the first Pavel, first person interested in asking questions. So let's wait for Krisha, and then let's give the virtual floor to Pavel.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't raise my hand, so I'm sorry. I didn't have the question.
So do we have any questions?
Uh, I might have a question. I noticed that there's a lot of, sorry, Tom, you were first? Okay, I have a question. I noticed that there's a lot of family ethnic rituals involved in your presentation.
Mhm.
Is this something typically Polish or is it
because my family had family rituals as well, and they're not Polish at all. So
Ping, do you mean rituals surrounding photographs or cultural?
cultural, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we had a certain amount. My mom, because when she emigrated to the United States, she was 19 and it was 1939. And so she essentially was living with family and friends and extended family in the metropolitan New York area. So whether it was Brooklyn, Bronx, Jersey, et cetera, and really cemented into that community and participating, marching in the Pulaski Parade, um, uh, participating in a number of organizations, as well as celebrating holidays in a traditional style, Vigilia, Christmas Eve, et cetera, and also the decor, the photo. There's so much to be mined. There are photos that I have found of one of her
Mm.
apartments, and lace curtains and just certain decorative elements remind me of residences in Poland. And I think Jerry Craze has talked about some of that in some of his presentations, because he really evaluates the spatial environment.
Yeah. Have you read Mary Edmonds, the Korzynski Girls, where
You bet
she,
I have. Love it.
yeah, me too.
Yes.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
Tim, do you have a comment?
I'm trying to formulate a thought, which
Okay.
which came up when when you asked who are these pictures taken for? Why
Hmm.
are they taken? It's so interesting because you I mean, obviously there's this sort of immediate need, the sort of immediate motive for taking pictures.
Hmm.
There's this moment and you're waiting for the pictures to come back because so much about photography in the past was a kind of anticipation.
Yeah.
First, you have to go through the whole roll of film,
Hmm.
which people typically did not do in one setting, as you did when you were functioning as a photographer and you're running through film quickly. So you
Hmm.
have that weight, and then you have the weight of sending the film out, whether it's to a local drugstore in those days or a photo finisher or sending it to Kodak, and you press the button and we do the rest, right? Um,
Right.
so it's interesting because there's a sort of immediacy to taking a picture. And these two very poignant pictures that you showed have a certain amount of formality, a formality of dress and a formality of occasion, right? And then by the time the photographs arrive, the person who took them will remember taking them but will have forgotten taking them in between in
Mm.
that period of time, you know?
Hmm.
And I was just reflecting on that as you were talking, because it was like, why are these pictures taken? I mean, the actual sort of act of taking the picture,
Hmm.
of setting it up, of getting the camera, of sitting, of posing, all of that sort of thing, that all contains so much of what that picture was about. The act of taking the picture, not the picture itself, not the document as such. That's almost like it's not an afterthought exactly, but so much about it is the ritual of taking the picture.
Hmm.
And so I don't know that I actually have a question embedded in this, but I would be interested because I'm sure you've thought about this sort of thing, right? So
Hmm.
I'll just sort of leave it there. I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, with these images that I found, like the photo that I have of the box, that's how I found the box in the pictures, and I remember discovering it some time ago, after my mom had passed away, and looking through and realizing that in that box there were a number of photos of Stash and family. And so the reflection that was inspired on September 4, 2022, was because Stash passed away in beginning of July 2022. And so I was thinking about here was this anniversary of my father's passing, and whatever the next realm looks like, um, if they are able to meet, what has that been like? So that's where that inspiration came from. And so I recognize that, from it's a very personal process, very unique, but I really believe that if others want to dip their toe into this approach, and one of the books that I draw upon, it's Family Secrets, Acts of Memory and Imagination by Annette Kuhn. We'll try to get this in the chat. Short, slim book. You can find it used. I got mine from a used bookseller many years ago when I was working on the Midlife Masters, and it's really worthwhile if you have an interest in working on this. Get the book. Because her theory and her case studies are very, very enlightening, and I found them very helpful and very inspirational. Karen.
Uh, I think Mary Erdman's got in ahead of me. I can't figure out. Okay. I can figure out how to raise my hand on this thing, but so after Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, I found it under reactions.
Yeah.
Then it says raise hand, right? But I will go. Uh, so so yeah, really interesting work. Very emotional for me at the point. I have, like, I don't know, probably 2 dozen boxes of photos that I just took out of my parents' house, who've just moved into assisted living, and that's only from pre 1960. I left twice that much at home, and she did a very good job of categorizing after 1960 on. So I have everything, and that's where this, I left that for the siblings, but this, I took the sort of history. And so, ask a practical question about, like, how do I really begin to organize this? Because we can do that offline. So I have this question for you or for others who are, this is very particular Polish question. When do Poles begin to smile? Photos. What changed and why, and it's just talking about smiling. So that's my question.
I'm going through an inventory in my mind. Yeah. And I'm actually thinking of there's a photo that when my parents are both seniors, and my father, in the last 10 years of his life, he passed at age 77, had every couple of years there was a significant health crisis. And so they're sitting outside, actually on the Adirondack chairs, same chairs, different spot in the yard. And he's petting a cat, and he is smiling. And so there's that may be the sort of subtext that when I selected that photo, that I talked about, when I'm 6, yeah, I got the love of cats from him, and that's a photo where I know he's smiling. I think the childhood photos, yeah, I don't recall much smiling from either of them, which is why this is a bigger project. I have a lot of writing and thinking to do.
Yeah, I think Karen is next.
Yeah.
And then you will know.
Okay, so I have a bunch of thoughts here. I don't want to monopolize things, but like I spend a lot of time with old stuff and other people's old stuff, including photographs I buy. For instance, at estate sales, I will buy old people's family photos. I have no idea who these people are. I'm just like the images are just I don't know, I feel an obligation of some sort. But I'll come back to that in a second because right now, much like you, Mary, I'm going through family photos. My brother passed away in February, and I'm the person in 2 weeks who is making the photo presentation like they do now. So I'm in the process of once again going through our old family photos, which I put everybody's family photos on Flickr, scan them, whether I know the people or not. I put them in albums, put them on Flickr with tags so that if somebody is coming along looking for that family name, Googling that family name, this photo that I bought at some estate sale, 10 years ago will come up and,
Wow.
maybe it'll have meaning for somebody. So my one comment, I guess, is about um, looking at other people's, the meaning that other people's family photos, the meaning for us that your family photos, for instance, might have. Um, and I don't have a question about that in particular, but I find those photos compelling, whether or not we have a story to tell and a memory to dredge up, out of those photos, or even a memory to imagine, because I'm not sure that, you know, my reading of a family photo, even one that I'm in, is, it's only one possible reading. And other people in the photos, or the person who is taking the photo, or, someone else looking at it, whether or not they're part of the family or not, may see that photo differently.
Mhm.
And I wonder if, the theorists talk about that at all. Um, and the other thing that I wanted to mention is just that the preciousness of these older family photos, because nowadays, of course, we're, s snapping, a million photos a day, and most of them are just duplicates of each other. And,
Mhm.
do they have the same kind of meaning, or how is the meaning different with the photos that we take today? Because it's such an easy thing and there are so many. Whereas, in the past, this was an event to take a photo, which may say
Right.
something about the facial expressions and the lack of smiling. They weren't necessarily candid snapshots, right? They were posed photos that were meant to say something particular. So anyway, those are just some of my thoughts that might be questions or, at least open to comment from other folks.
Ivanka, maybe before you go, there's also a comment in the chat. Maybe before we can look at this. I will read it right now. I
Okay.
found this presentation quite poignant, and it reminded me of many awkward, painful moments looking at photos as a kid, as the meaning evolved for me over time. Images meant to instill pride could cause shame, as the difficult process of assimilation made me aware of perceived inadequacies of my immigrant family. Context: immigrated from Poland in the 1980s. I feel myself composing photos of my own family to avoid these feelings, and I'm always aware of the class and cultural elements as I am including and excluding. This question comment comes from Stefan Spajda. If Krisha would like to address it.
I just want to say, Stefan, thank you. Um, I, I I don't have any other comment than just thank you. This is important and reflective and insightful. And I think when we share this information, and this taps into a little bit of Karen, your point about if one individual is looking at an image, and maybe there's another person that was in it. Everyone is going to have their own individual memories and interpretations and experiences that they are bringing um, to their analysis, their thought process around that image. Um, I think to be able to articulate what Stefan has in the actual process of making those images is very poignant for me, and I'm going to have some reflection after this in thinking about how our own family photos were taken when I look at the album. That's all I'll say for now.
Ivana, I think you're next.
Okay. So, Krisha, thank you very much for your presentation. I find it really very interesting because usually when I read about deciphering photographs, it's all about finding as much information as possible about the timing, the place, the buildings at the back, the objects on a picture. And you focus on emotions, on feelings, on motivations in various configurations, like between the subjects on the photo or between the subject and the photographer, and even hidden information or hidden stories behind these facial expressions, for instance. So I find it very interesting. So uh, you're to blame now because I have to go through all my family photographs, and it's a lot of them. And I have a lot of photos about people, uh, about photos of people that I don't know much about. So now I hope to at least to have to develop my imagination, my understanding of their story. Thanks to you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Yvonne. And I think a part of it, for me, because this all spun out of my master's research, was having the opportunity to study key elements of history. The history of Poland during the Second World War, which profoundly, impacted the movements of my parents and extended family. My tagline is, I exist because a world war and totalitarian regimes kept my newlywed parents apart for 20 years. That's it in a nutshell. So having more knowledge about the influences of my family's Catholic faith, all of those details are really helpful. And Ivana, having the more knowledge I think that we have, it just allows me to contextualize those experiences more effectively. And I'm grateful for the master's process and where it brought me personally, intellectually, but also emotionally. And it also brought me into connection, with groups like PAHA, because you folks are fantastic. And I was terrified several years ago when I presented the first time, because I thought, oh God, am I good enough? Does my work matter? And so I very much appreciate that. Now I have this opportunity to talk with you today. I mean, this is great. So thank you. Sorry to veer off a little bit. Oh, no, sorry. I love you guys.
Hey, Monica.
Where'd she go?
Can you hear me?
Oh, now we can hear you. Yeah.
I'm a new PAHA member, and although I knew Dr. Gene Obedinsky, I met him when he did a survey in Buffalo. I'm originally from Buffalo, so I'm aware of the great work of PAHA, and I'm glad to be a new member. And I loved reading your paper, Kristina. I found that, and I read it, and I communicated with you.
Right.
My comment is on what Mary Erdman said, was what I was about to ask about, because I'm trying to reconstruct and learn more about my family, and I have photographs. I don't know, can you see this?
Hold it a little higher. There we go. Cool.
That's a photo of my great-grandfather. This is my grandmother. And I have studio photos. This is somebody, I have no idea who this is. And I have photos into the present to when my grandmother died in 1977, and lots of family photos. And I'm trying to learn more about my family's history. but I noticed that the seriousness of the old, like the posed, kind of aspirational, probably studio photos, um, versus wedding photos from the 1920s versus wedding photos from the 1950s, how the people's expressions have changed, kind of like what Mary Erdmans has said. And your paper, and you're giving so much importance to family photos, the casual ones, even though they may be also aspirational depending on where they were and how they dressed. But it's giving me, I'm looking at everything with new eyes and trying to just understand who these people were and how they changed and became Americans. Because I do have photos from Poland from the late 19th century, so which I know very little about other than Polish history, but I really appreciated your approach and the importance of just regular, casual family photos.
Yeah, there's actually a quote from Annette Kuhn, as I was trying to figure out how to conclude, and there were a few that I cut, but I think this acknowledges your point, Monica. Memory work is a method and practice of unearthing and making public untold stories, stories of lives lived out on the borderlands, lives for which the central interpretive devices of culture don't quite work. These are the lives of those whose ways of knowing and ways of seeing the world are rarely acknowledged, let alone celebrated in the expression of a hegemonic culture. So yeah, this is the micro level of culture.
I saw, I copied a quote from your paper. It was, "At the end of the line of silent witnesses, I've become a storyteller." And I know if I don't do it, if you don't do it, those of us who are the keepers of these family photos and what we know, how do you we can piece together a pathway, a story, a line for other people in the family. And I just love that you've documented it and you've put it out for the public as well, not just for your own benefit. So I've benefited enormously from this lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Monica.
Mark.
Kristina, thank you for a really great presentation. I'm wondering if you could sort of comment on the emotional impact of, say, Poles seeing photos of their American relatives for the first time, or vice versa, and how the cultural significance of that is sort of bridging generations of.
What I can tell you is this: my mom. This is the opportunity for the visual, because we still have it. I still have it. This is a Brownie camera that mom bought when I was a baby, so she could document her family, which is something that she had waited 20 years for. This is a little camera. So she could send photos to the family in Poland. So she left in 1939. She waited 20 years for her husband to come. Family came. And then in the end, she didn't get to see her mom and brothers and extended family for 33 years. We together went in 1972. So photographs were critical to send to the family. I don't have much because she sent them away. And case in point, when I was in Belarus, which our roots are in the Kresy, in the former borderlands that were Poland, that are now in the nation of Belarus. I'm looking through album, and there are photos that my mom sent pasted in their album. So it was really important. And there was one that my uncle allowed me to carefully remove, which was key in my master's project. It was sort of like my central piece of my mother holding my mother with me as a baby. And so the photos that we received were primarily studio portraits. Very, very few people had cameras, but they were documenting, the christening, first communion, those major events. So that's how I got to know them, with the rare exception of that photo of my babcia, my grandmother, who that's a snapshot. She's in front of their home in Kamienczany prior to when they had to repatriate to Poland after the war. Does that address your question, Mark?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions from the audience? I actually have a question too. Sorry, I'm like a little sick and I'm having a hard time speaking, but hopefully you can hear me. I know, Krisha, that in your work you choose to address. You very often direct your narrative to your parents, to your father, to your mother. Could you tell us a little bit about that choice? Like, why to do it directly?
Yeah, it happened very organically, and I think I know why. I think I figured it out. Be, for many years, I didn't understand the nature of the length of 20 year this separation. So learning about the history, post-war Poland, gave me that context. Um, I I feel like it's me acknowledging that I understand more of what their choices, what inspired their choices, the choices that they had to make. It's like I get it. I'm not the judgmental 14-year-old who is just angry or scared because there's discord in the house, because I don't know that my father probably has PTSD from his experiences during the war. I don't know that he has a son that he left in another country, and so he, is abusing alcohol. Um, it all gave me greater compassion, empathy, context, um, recognizing recognizing their humanity, um, and and recognizing the wisdom, especially of my mother, who my mother is the one who told me that I had this half brother. And when I learned that when I was 18. I won't get into the story of how. That's for another time. I knew for 10 years, and when I was 28, I went to Poland to visit my babcia for what I presumed would be the last time. She was in her early 90s. And my mom said, "Go see Stash." And I did. And I'll actually be able to screen share as a when we are ready to wrap up before you all go. It's a perfect ending. And I met him and his wife, and I met his mother and sisters, and recorded messages on my little tape recorder. And when I came back from Poland, I ran and deposited all my film with the Photoshop. Got it 24 hours, put together an album. My father was in the hospital, and I came back upstate. I was living in Connecticut at the time. I came back upstate, showed him these pictures, played him these messages, and said, "It's okay." And so through both of their experiences, I have this family. I have this amazing niece and nephew, and even though he is lost, and was lost to his family for many years, his own family, um, I got this gift, this amazing gift, and so to be able to uh, share the story, hopefully, can remind people that we travel circuitous paths. Our ancestors have traveled circuitous paths. Poles, in particular, have had a hell of a time with partitions and et cetera, et cetera. It's been a tough row, and it just continues. We need to find the humanity in each other, and I guess ultimately that's what my work is about. It's not more important than anybody's. It's really an effort to remind us that we're human and that we need to care about each other. And I am going to do a. Did that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. I think it was, you want to share something?
Yeah, I want to do a screen share.
Mm-hmm.
If there is any other comment or question, this is actually a really nice wrap up. Let me see if I can figure this out again. How did we? Oh, down there. Okay. Okay. Screen share. Okay. Oops. How do I go back? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So that's Stash when I met him in 1988. And that's his daughter, Agnieszka. And so this is thanks to my mom. Goofy picture. And there he is at rest with his mom and a brother-in-law and older brother. There you go.
So let me ask one more time if there are any last comments, questions. If not, maybe I will pass. Oh, Pavel, there's one more comment.
Well, let me comment. Thank you very much for very interesting presentation. And I think it's extremely important to take photographs, not only of your family, but other places, people, because they are sometimes priceless for future generations. Mm-hmm. Not only historians, but, individual people. It's very important. Yeah. And nowadays, of course, I agree with Karen's comment that it's so easy to take, it's much easier to take photographs because in the past was much more difficult. It was a celebration, was a special event always for families, to take photographs. Thank you. Thank you again.
Can I say one more quick thing? It's really important to put the names of the people who are in the photographs somewhere on the back, because it could be frustrating later, like 50 years later, where nobody knows who's in the photos.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Monica, for that point. It's a reminder to seize the opportunity for those who are our elders who are still with us and can assist with that project. I did ask my mom. We had this collection of studio portraits in the trunk upstairs, and many years ago we did go through. That was pre-Post-it era, so there's just little slips of paper with everything. But at least the names were recorded. Absolutely right.
Okay, so now I think I will pass the floor to either Ivana or Karen, our fearless PAHA leadership, to close the meeting.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know, Karen, would you like to, or may I continue? Yeah. Okay, so thank you all very much for attending, and thank you, Krisha, very much for your presentation and also for your openness. That's not so usual, and that's not what I expected. I'm really thrilled about your story, and I think that your story and your presentations shows that our family photos are not just images; they are like bridges between who we were, who we are, who we are becoming, and sharing them. It's not just sharing an image, but it's like opening a window or showing a way into our history, our identity, our stories. So thank you very much for that. And thank you all for attending.
Thank you very much. It was an interesting meeting. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And again, PAHA, dziękuję bardzo. I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kristina.
See you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Have a nice
Bye-bye.
one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.